So I've been following the sport of pro bodybuilding since 1987 and working in the industry and sport of bodybuilding since 1991. I often get asked, what are the most impressive physiques you ever saw? So today I thought, why not? I'll do a video of the top 5 in no particular order. These are the top 5 physiques I have seen in those 35 years, 40 years, close 40 years, and why I feel they were so damn impressive. And I'll start with Dorian Yates. Dorian set an entirely new standard for pro bodybuilding. I came up watching Lee Haney, Rich Gaspari, Mike Christian, Gary Stridham, those guys, Barry DeMay, Lee Labrada. And Dorian was an evolution. He was bigger than any of them, even bigger than Haney. And he had this dense, crazy condition. It was rock solid. He looked like he was carved out of pure granite. This is 1993, which I feel he was at his best. This was before he tore his bicep, which happened a few months after this 1993 Olympia. This was actually also a few weeks after those infamous black and white black socks update pictures that Kevin Horton took that were printed in Flex magazine. So Dorian won his first Olympia in 1992 at around 242 pounds. Here he was 257. And it wasn't that he gained all that muscle in that time. It was that he didn't over diet as he had in 1992. But again, he set an entirely new standard for mass and condition combined that everyone else tried to chase with varying degrees of success. Dorian was just the next evolution in pro bodybuilding. That's why a lot of people say he changed the sport. And I definitely agree with that statement. Dorian did change the sport because he brought something entirely new. We'd seen smaller guys who were shredded. We'd seen bigger guys who weren't so shredded. We'd never seen someone who put them both together quite the way Dorian did. He also changed the sport in the way he trained, that heavy-duty style, which was he sort of borrowed very heavily from guys like Arthur Jones and Mike Menser, but he put his own spin on it, this blood and guts training style of his that also others try to emulate with varying degrees of success. But he did change the game, Dorian Yates. Next guy, I was very privileged to see his career evolve from the very beginning. I knew him just before he turned pro, year before he turned pro, and followed his entire pro career. I'm talking about Flex Wheeler. So Flex was, again, someone who changed the face of the sport. This is 1998 when he got bigger. His first season, 1993, rookie season when he came out, won the Pro Ironman, then won the Arnold Classic at only about 216 pounds. The footage you're looking at here, 98, he's probably about 255 here. He put on a lot of mass, and he kept his shape. Many people did prefer the smaller, more streamlined version of Flex. Others preferred this larger, more filled-out version. Certainly, he had one of the most, if not the best physiques of all time. I mean, this is obviously up for debate. You guys can put in your own opinions in the comments. I fully welcome it because this is a sport of subjectivity, and we all have our own personal preferences and opinions. But Flex, whatever you think, you cannot deny this was one of the greatest physiques of all time. Again, size and shape, tiny joints, full muscle bellies that just jumped off the bone. He was a very small boned guy. If you ever see photos of Flex when he started bodybuilding, started competing, very light boned guy, narrow shoulders, tiny joints. Certainly you would never have thought he was capable of adding this much muscle mass the way he did. But it was a beautiful physique. It was a living work of art, a sculpture. A lot of people will tell you this is their favorite physique of all time. Even though he never won a Mr. Olympia, he was runner-up twice. Still, a living, breathing work of muscular art, Flex Wheeler. Nobody quite had this combination of size, shape, symmetry, proportion, aesthetics the way that Flex did. He just changed the game again. These are guys that you couldn't help but just say, wow, when you saw them at their best on stage. They were just awe-inspiring. All the guys I'm talking about in this video. So Flex Wheeler definitely belongs up there. Going to stay in the 90s here for a minute, even though this footage is from 2002. We're talking about Kevin Levrone. This what we're looking at here is 2002 Olympia. This was where he took second place at the Olympia for the fourth and final time. He would only compete in the Olympia one more time the next year, 2003, where he dropped down to sixth before taking a 17-year break and coming back in 2016. This was a 14-year break. I'm sorry. My math isn't that great. Kevin, again, someone who had a very, very unique combination of size and shape. Big, big guy. Some of the best shoulders and triceps we've ever seen in bodybuilding. Amazing poser. And the crazy thing about that is he never once had a routine prepared ahead of time. He told me that many times. Everything you see when he was on stage was made up on the spot. That was one of his signature poses right there. I call it the Levrone because there's no other word for it. It was something he did leading into the side chest. Four times runner-up at the Mr. Olympia. Unfortunately, he went up against the great Dorian Yates and the great Ronnie Coleman, and both of those men in their prospective Olympia reigns stood in the way of Kevin garnering his own Mr. Olympia title. But certainly when we talk about guys in the sense of being an uncrowned Mr. Olympia, and I know Bob Chickerlow hates that phrase, but uncrowned Mr. Olympia, guys who really could have been Mr. Olympia, but never got that nod from the judges. Kevin Levrone has to be one of those guys in that conversation, if not the premier man that you talk about, because tell me that doesn't embody everything you think about as being Mr. Olympia when you look at Kevin Levrone's physique. He competed anywhere from about 230 to 260 pounds in the years he was a top pro. You can put in your comments what year, what body weight you liked him the most. This is one of the higher body weights. This is when he was getting bigger and bigger toward the very end, Kevin Levrone. Kevin was great. Now, of course, we have to go to another Mr. Olympia. This is 7-time Mr. Olympia champ, Phil Heath. And we're looking at Phil here. This was 2017. This was his final win. 7 wins in a row where he equaled Arnold's record of 7, though he won his, Phil, 7 in a row. Arnold won 6 in a row, then took a few years off and came back. I chose this footage not necessarily because it's Phil at his best, although you could argue that, but the quality of the footage was really good, which allows you to see what he had that the other guys didn't. There were other guys who had great muscle mass and shape and condition. Nobody quite put it together the way that Phil did during those 7 years. It's not that he was the biggest guy. There were guys bigger than him. There were guys even with better shape than him. And there were guys with better condition sometimes, not often. But nobody had it all combined the way that Phil did. Phil put it all together. Size, shape, proportion, condition. Every little fiber of the musculature was evident with Phil. It went beyond just condition. It was just muscle detail, what we call muscle maturity. Phil had that to a degree that almost nobody else of his era did. And again, you want to talk body parts, some of the greatest shoulders and triceps. He had great legs, great hamstrings. Back was a body part that started out kind of weak on Phil in the early years, but he brought it up tremendously. One of the greats, Phil Heath. Phil used to say during his reign, especially toward the end, that we would miss him when he was gone. And, he was right. I miss Phil Heath in the Olympia. I think he was somebody we didn't really appreciate during his reign. All right, so I said that I wasn't, this was in no particular order, but if I had to lean toward the most impressive physique I ever saw, it would be this guy. We're talking about 8-time Mr. Olympia, Ronnie Coleman. Footage we're looking at here is 2003 Mr. Olympia. The previous year, a week or two after the 2002 Olympia, he had done another show that was a big prize money show called the GNC Show of Strength, where he lost to Gunter Schlierkamp. The only time Ronnie was ever beaten while he was Mr. Olympia. It did not sit well with him. He was so pissed. He came back the next year bigger than he'd ever been. What we're looking at here is 287 pounds. He would get a little bigger than this even, 296, but At 296, his midsection was really starting to get blown out. This was Ronnie's favorite look. He said it several times. He'd been in better condition at his first couple Olympia wins in 98, 99, and when he won the Arnold Classic in 2001. But here, what we're looking at in 2003, what he liked was his overall blend, overall package of size and condition. 287 pounds, just a freak. Very, very few people ever approached this level of mass and condition combined. You just saw him come out in those years, those last couple years he was winning, and shook your head. He was just the winner. He came out and he was the winner. And here he is hitting a split at 287 pounds, 5'11", which how many guys can do that? So when Ronnie came out, jaws dropped and people just said, holy shit, what is that? Wow. He had that wow factor. And then when we have a video called The Most Impressive Physiques, that's what I got to factor in. Who had the greatest wow factor? When Ronnie came out, people just were in disbelief at what they were looking at. Is this from planet Earth? Is this the human being? He just defied all expectations and preconceived notions of what we had as a pro bodybuilder or a bodybuilder, or what human beings were capable of looking like. Ronnie really redefined that. So that's my video, guys, for the top 5 most impressive physiques I ever saw. Please, in the captions below, the comments below, I'm sorry, give me your top 5. Top 5 you ever saw in person, or just what you think. What was your top 5, what you believe the most impressive physiques we've seen yet? You can go back further than my video did in history, or you can be closer to the current day, whatever you believe. It's all a matter of opinion. Your opinion and my opinion, neither one has any more weight. We've all got eyes, and we've all got opinions of our own. So let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. Greatest physique, most impressive physiques of all time. Let me know what you think. Appreciate you watching. We'll talk to you guys later.